Hello, this is the Gemsbach, and today's topic is Awesomenauts, a game developed by Ronimo Games and originally released in 2012. The previous video was another somewhat heavy entry into this series, focusing on the interpretation of pixel art and pixel art as an artistic movement. So, just like when I followed up my heavier Papers, Please video with a lighter video essay on Offspring Fling, I will be making this one another lighter recommendation. The game which I would like to recommend is Ronimo Games' 2012 side-scrolling platformer MOBA, Awesomenauts. This game is a truly one-of-a-kind experience, whose indie team has carved out a consistent niche in the perennially monopolized MOBA genre. Anyone who is not impressed by Awesomenauts' sustained success has a very short memory. I can effortlessly think of numerous multiplayer games I've liked and watched die for any number of reasons. But in the 5 years I've been playing Awesomenauts, I've never waited over 10 minutes for a full game of players. 3 minutes or less is typical. And that's true despite its first half-decade of existence not being free to play. Allow me to explain what makes this title superior. I would have a hard time adequately expressing what an amazing game Awesomenauts is, short of sitting you in front of the game and having you play a couple rounds. In the interest of trying to communicate its appeal, however, I will go over some of the particular details that put it in a league of its own. Awesomenauts is a 3 vs 3 online competitive game in which teams compete to destroy an enemy team's base drill before their own is destroyed. The drills are guarded by turrets, which can be attacked when they are distracted by waves of droids. Player characters can be upgraded in their base via resources accumulated during play, and the field of play is entirely two-dimensional. Awesomenauts' unique fusion of platforming gameplay and MOBA gameplay makes for a game with both a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. This means that it is trivially easy to get into the game, yet very difficult to master. The ease of getting into it derives primarily from its platformer elements, which most players will find intuitively familiar. The difficulty in mastering it derives chiefly from its MOBA elements, with high-level competitive play taking advantage of a broad skill set, requiring everything from twitch reflexes to team coordination to deep knowledge of the character's abilities. Ronimo's design decisions in Awesomenauts generally make for a less stressful, more enjoyable experience all around than is typical of competitive MOBA gameplay. If you've ever liked the idea of a cooperative small team action game like League of Legends or Dota 2, but felt that the actual prospect of training for countless hours amidst harsh, unrelenting critics was not for you, then you should definitely look into Awesomenauts. The ranking system is geared toward accommodating all levels of play amicably, and its smaller community is by far the nicest MOBA crowd of which I am aware. This is not to say that every single solitary player of the game, all over the world, is a picture of compassion by any means. I personally think that there is something about the mix of small team cooperation and anonymity that practically guarantees that shorter-tempered or younger players will lash out at their teammates or their opposition. But nevertheless, it is the case in Awesomenauts that much or all of the typical toxicity of other MOBAs is just not present. Part of the attitude of the players may come from the attitude of the game itself, which caters to a casual atmosphere through a lighthearted, vibrantly colored aesthetic with characters that are distinct and comedic. Furthermore, the matches run shorter than most MOBAs, usually between 15 and 25 minutes. This allows most players to channel any pent-up energy from a loss, or a win for that matter, into the next round rather than into their fellow players from the prior round. Now, the attitude of the Awesomenauts community may have also been, for many years, attributable to the slight barrier to entry provided by the fact that the game had a one-time purchase price to play, a usual cost of $10 that often went on discount. This meant that abusive players could not simply come back immediately on another account with no penalty, as in free-to-play games. But now that it has itself gone free-to-play, it will be up to a combination of the aforementioned aesthetics and design decisions, as well as the momentum of the game's existing community, to maintain the amazingly low toxicity of Awesomenauts' player interactions. As to the aforementioned aesthetic, like Team Fortress 2, Awesomenauts visuals were developed by pursuing a distinctive cartoonish art style rather than chasing realism. At the time of its release, it was portrayed as a Saturday morning cartoon that you could play. This certainly captures the spirit of the game, which boasts vibrant visuals and a roster of over 30 characters that have an exceptional energy and personality to them. Each character has its own personal theme song and killing spree track to match the uniqueness of their personality and style, whether the character is a French assassin chameleon, a scavenger techno shaman, a manacled telepathic child, a British admiral squid, a pantsless space marine, or something even more bizarre. And no matter how odd, each character is given a backstory, a set of abilities, a movement speed, an auto attack, and even a jumping style that is almost completely unique to them. The voice actors on the game range from professionals to Ronimo employees to YouTube gaming personalities. For instance, John Bain, also known as Total Biscuit, puts in a wonderful performance as the voice of a tiny, old-school mob hustler named Vinny.
How you like that, boys?
Side note, if any Ronimo team members are watching this, I would gladly donate my voice to any part of the project if asked. Anyway, this multiplicity of voices, songs, and mechanics results in characters that feel as different as they play. And the many little touches, such as the drop pod the player pilots when respawning, the map-specific critters, and the quirks to the several maps, for example, one contains a giant worm trap, and another contains a series of teleportation orbs, are all emblematic of Ronimo's attention to detail, and further flesh out the world that the characters inhabit. The result of all of these elements coming together with the familiar feel of 2D platforming and the intense competition of MOBA gameplay is a startlingly addictive creation that challenges and delights the player. As for myself, playing with friends, with folks I've met in-game, and on my own, across the past 5 years I have played this mild-mannered MOBA for well over 1,000 hours, and there are many that have played it much longer than me. When I was at my most active in Awesomenauts, I spent stretches of time in the game's top league. League 1 comprises the top 250 of the game's tens of thousands of players. These days I hover around rank 1000 in League 2. But I still enjoy the game as much as ever, maybe more with all of the technical improvements, and I find myself coming back to it again and again. The single biggest factor in the ongoing success of Awesomenauts is definitely the continuous hard work of a dedicated development team. The developers are immensely supportive of the game and put out large content patches about every 2 months, similar to the now long-gone golden age of Team Fortress 2. Ronimo hosts semi-weekly streams about progress on the game. They take player feedback as well as aggregate upgrade and character selection data so that they can tweak and refine character balance. They constantly work on polishing the graphics as well as the gameplay. At any given moment, the team is working on some exciting aspect of the game, be it a new feature, a new character, or just general improvement and management of the existing game. And you can always see a full breakdown of every detail of each update in Ronimo's official forums. Consistent and thorough patch notes might seem like a very minor thing to praise, but as a fan of The Binding of Isaac, I've learned that patch notes, however clearly beneficial to a game's community, are not always provided. If you are an interested player or an aspiring game developer, by the way, I would highly recommend also checking out the development blog run by Ronimo Games programmer Joost van Dongen, which provides tons of insight into the trials, tribulations, and iterative progress of creating a consistent and enjoyable online multiplayer experience. The only valid complaint I've seen about Awesomenauts is that one does occasionally encounter a match or a player with a very bad connection. There are a couple of things you should understand about this issue, though. First, you should know why this is the case. This is a more complex problem than it may seem, and it results from the game's peer-to-peer structure, its lower concurrent player count than bigger multiplayer releases, and its reliance on Steam's multiplayer systems. These issues do exist, and can lead to frustrating connection and lag issues. But second, and more importantly, these issues are a constant area of attention for the developers, and if you're playing in North America or Europe, then these issues are much less common and much less dramatic than they used to be. Having played this game for over 4 years now, it is remarkable how much these problems have been improved despite the concurrent player count remaining relatively stable. Last year, they rolled out a complete overhaul to the matchmaking system, called Galactron. And while there is some disagreement in the community about its efficacy, particularly from less populous player regions, I have personally found it to be nothing other than an unmitigated improvement to the experience of playing the game. It is important to note also that none of this is to do with optimization. The game is supremely well optimized. I used to play it on a laptop with integrated graphics, yet had no performance issues whatsoever. And despite playing at max graphics settings, the new Gemsbach PC never dips below 250 frames per second during a match. Obviously, I feel that the good far outweighs the bad, and regardless, when it comes to matchmaking and netcode, Ronimo is always in the process of improving both. All of the pieces of Awesomenauts, from its gameplay to its personality to its community to the constant and considerable improvement from an enthusiastic development team that has sustained it, sum together into something remarkable. And as an aside, in case any of you were worried about this, like all of the best free-to-play titles, the only elements that can be obtained through money alone are purely cosmetic. So there really is no reason now for you not to give it a chance, or to pick it back up if you played it long ago. There is a forum post from a concerned fan on the Awesomenauts website that is simply titled, "Is Awesomenauts Dying?" This forum post is from 2013, now over 4 years old, and the popularity of the game actually rose to new heights well after that post. It suffices to say that the answer to that question was no. And with the game now being free to play, I am looking forward to having an appreciable community of players in-game for years to come. People have been predicting the demise of great online multiplayer games like Team Fortress 2 and Awesomenauts for years. But the reality is that the players will stay as long as the team behind the game keeps substantively improving the player's experience and continues to apply lessons learned from their own missteps, as well as from the failures of the many multiplayer games, big and small, that they have already outlived.